When addressing the guidelines for implementation of acceleration, the publication recommended that the categories, forms, and types of acceleration are specified. So we said that, it was either whole grade or subject grade is what we specified. And the entire process to obtain acceleration services was completely detailed in your policy. Acceleration decisions should be made by child study teams and not individuals. And we actually had a committee at each school that will approve the acceleration process. Now, the people that we have to consist of our committee are the principal, the counselor, current or past teachers, the GT coordinator, any GT resource teachers, and parents are involved in that process. Our secondary director or elementary director will approve our final documentation and findings, and then they report that to the Board of Education to let them know about the accelerated students. The child study team creates the actual written acceleration plan. This team of people that I just mentioned that was on the committee will write that formalized acceleration plan, and the policy specifies that the acceleration process includes a monitored transition period in which any kind of decision can be reversed. Now, we really include an average of 60 days for a transition period, about 2 months, where anyone at any time can appeal these decisions or make changes to their current accelerated placement. When addressing policy providing guidelines on administrative matters, you need to make sure that they are fair and systematic, and the short-term goals are actually addressed. Credit for content mastered must be specified as well. When addressing the policy providing guidelines preventing no academic barriers to the use of acceleration as an educational intervention, your school should make sure that any extracurricular opportunities are not to be withheld or denied to be for the accelerated student. An example of this in our county is when we created the BAMS accelerated program at the high school level. We just made sure that all students could still participate in even homeschool extracurricular activities, although they were taking classes at a central location. The policy includes features that prevent unintended consequences, which is why we include an appeals process for decisions made at any time during the process, and that we should reevaluate the effectiveness of our policy, which is what we're going to be doing again soon in our county, because we found some things that we do need to go back and readdress. There's some formatting issues and just some additional questions we'd like to add to our policy, some things like that. Now, if you will go on our website, which is bcpsgt.weebly.com, you can click on the More tab, and it will take you to District Policies and Procedures. There are 2 documents that are uploaded. It would be the second choice for the document uploaded, and this will show you all of our acceleration policy and procedures. I'll go ahead and show you what the first page will look like here. It talks about referrals and evaluation, so that anyone can go through and refer a child to be accelerated. A teacher, an administrator, gifted coordinator, a resource teacher, a counselor, a psychologist, a parent. That process can be started by anyone. Copies of the process and policy are all available to all district staff in each building. We also have it on our web page. The principal of the referred student's school or the gifted education coordinator obtains all of our written permission. So we do get permission to test from parents and any background information about the student. And then they are referred for a possible accelerated placement for 60 or more days prior to the start of school year. We just want to make sure that we have proper placement in order for the first day of school. Now, we have done acceleration at any time during the school year as well. It's not just limited to that. A parent can require notification in writing. We always will have all of the evaluation completed process within 30 days of any submission for acceleration. And the parents also have the right to appeal any decision that was made, and they can do that in writing as well. The Acceleration Evaluation Committee, once again, part of our policy, we just had that is conducting fair and thorough evaluations, that if we are going to look at whole grade acceleration, it needs to be approved by our board, and I was talking about that process a little bit earlier. We use a variety of data to include measures of achievement. We look at different screening tests that I'll show you in just a moment as well. We can have a written decision that's to the principal and to the parent to let them know of the evaluation process outcome. Then once a student is actually accelerated and it's been approved, we write an acceleration policy as a committee for either whole grade or subject-based acceleration, and the parent receives a copy of that. And the actual plan will highlight strategies to support a successful transition and exactly what is going to be needed as far as high school credits. And then they have that transition period that's an appropriate amount of time in case any changes need to be happening. For accelerated placement, the committee looks at that transition period. And once again, this is just more documentation in our policy that says that they could be withdrawn at any time. The principal can remove the student from accelerated placement if the parent feels like that it's not a good fit for them. This is just more about that transition period. The process in requesting an acceleration, once again, we get any type of member to take the paperwork, and a principal, current teacher, receiving teacher, coordinator. If there's a special education student that's twice exceptional, we'll include the special education teacher, high school counselor, guidance counselors, school psychologist. Any of those types of people can also be part of that evaluation committee. Some of the things that we want to change in our policy are the types of assessments that we use. We use the cognitive abilities test now, as well as the Otis Lennon School Ability Test. We really don't use the Slauson Full Range Intelligence Test or the Raven Standard Matrices anymore that much. We focus on the Naglieri for nonverbal testing. So we can also use the Wechsler Intelligence Scale for children. Possible achievement tests can include Stanford Achievement Tests for social studies and science. But we really don't give the Stanford because that's part of K-Prep now. So, but we do have the Woodcock-Johnson, and we primarily use the Iowa Test of Basic Skills. We can accept Explore, Plan, ACT scores, SAT scores. And then on the academic school ability tests for general intellectual, we follow the same guidelines of a 128 or higher as the state regulation, or a 96 percentile or higher on a written achievement test assessments. Once the County Acceleration Evaluation Committee looks at scores of students, we also include the students' academic history, any kind of developmental issues, interpersonal skills, student attitude, motivation, and then we take all of those things into consideration when making placement. If a student is considered for just subject-based, we still look at those history of developmental issues, interpersonal attitude, so on and so forth. If the committee recommends acceleration, the student also, the acceleration plan is written, but any type of long-term goals will also be included in a gifted student service plan as well. If the parent withdraws the student from the accelerated plan, the student will just be removed of the placement. If the parent does not withdraw the student from accelerated placement during the time period, it becomes permanent within that student's records, and it's updated accordingly in Infinite Campus, and it progressively goes through in forthcoming years as well. The transition period has been, once it's completed successfully, like I said, it becomes permanent, and if it's unsuccessful, then we reconvene to review any kind of evidence from the receiving teacher. We have the rights and appeals process here listed as well. And this is just some examples of our documentation. You'll see that this is a self-referral or a parent request. It's a little bit more detailed than this, as far as we want a lot of information as far as background information from the parent or student that's making the request. The teacher or team of teachers that the student currently has, or past teachers, can fill out this request to know a little bit more about what has been provided as far as differentiation and what have they made as far as accommodations for this particular student in the past. This is an example of our parent notification for testing to get permission to actually test in the school system. And then this is what I was talking to you about with the parent, as well as the teachers, and the committee sits down to fill this out as well, to find out more information about the background of the student. So we ask if the student has had any previous acceleration opportunities, if they have already been identified as gifted, if they're twice exceptional, have an IEP or 504 plan. Then we look at the data of our testing, whether the student scored qualifying scores for an intelligence test of 128 or higher, or 96 percentile or higher. We look at that as a current grade level. Now, if we give an above grade level aptitude test, such as the Iowa test of basic skills in a grade above, we would look at the 75 percentile of achievement to be considered for a placement for that. Something else on section C is we look to see if a student is placed in the same grade as a sibling. If it may be discouraged to place a student in a higher or same grade as a sibling, so that's something else that we take into effect and look at. And we also look at transportation, whether the student needs to be in a different building for the academic year, or a Skype session would need to work, and does the student have regular attendance in the school to have a successful transition into an accelerated class.